Donald Trump is promoting a false Harris crowd size conspiracy. This is totally weird. It started with Dinesh D'Souza, who's, kind of nuts himself. And he tweeted or X'd or whatever you call it, a picture of the crowd by Kamala Harris's plane, and had little circles around the one of the engines and the fuselage of the plane, which is highly polished. And he said, why isn't there a reflection of the crowd on these surfaces? Well, the answer to that question is because these are curved surfaces. They're not flat like a mirror. And curved surfaces don't show reflections the way flat surfaces do. It's a completely different thing. But Dinesh D'Souza is apparently not smart enough to know that. So he tweets this out, and Donald Trump sees it and goes, holy cow, there's a conspiracy here. And he goes and he tweets, he says, where he does it over on his failing Nazi-infested social media site. He says, has anybody noticed that Kamala cheated at the airport? There was nobody at the plane, and she AI'd it, and it showed a massive crowd of so-called followers, but they didn't exist. Yeah, right, they did. The Harris campaign replied with a, quote, actual photo of a 15,000-person crowd for Harris Walls in Michigan. The Harris campaign also used that opportunity to point out that Trump has not, well, this is what they say, Trump has still not campaigned in a swing state in over a week. Low energy? Yeah, right. And on Saturday, Trump went nuts because Harris is now saying, let's eliminate taxes on tips. And now Trump is like, yeah, she's a copycat with her no taxes on tips. It's not fair. Well, it was Reagan. I mean, taxes on tips have been around forever, but it was Reagan who changed the law in a way that made it easier for employers to nail you and the IRS to nail you for your tips. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is claiming that Iran has hacked his campaign. And some guy named Robert sent a bunch of internal Trump campaign documents, apparently the vetting, the Oppo report, the opposition report on J.D. Vance, some 40, 50 pages of dirt on Vance, and it got sent to Politico. Now, Politico is taking the position of, we're not going to publish this because it came from a hostile government, and that wouldn't be right, which is a little different than the position everybody took in 2016 when it was Hillary's emails. But this is Trump's emails, or J.D. Vance and the campaign's emails. But I'm wondering if Iran actually did this. I mean, just imagine if you're the Trump campaign and you know that you've got a person who was in on these discussions, on these email chains, who got a copy of the opposition report on J.D. Vance, and who is dissatisfied, who's going to quit, who's upset, who has been sexually harassed, or who didn't get paid, or who just had a change of heart. And or you believe that that person is going to reveal this information to the press. What do? You try to get out ahead of it. You say, oh, yeah, well, here, we'll give it to the press first, and we'll claim that it came from Iran. Now, I have no evidence for this. This is purely a conspiracy theory on my part. Let me be very clear. But it makes a lot more sense to me than that Iran hacked these and handed them off to Politico. I mean, you would think that if Iran hacked them, they would release them to media that they know would publicize them. Or for that matter, I mean, there's these phony publications they'd send them to, or they'd send them to the New York Times and the Washington. I mean, they'd spread them much farther. It appears to, so, this is, like I said, this is my personal conspiracy theory, but I'm very skeptical. And the fact that Politico is holding this stuff close to the vest, that's just weird. So, anyhow, it's also astonishingly ironic, given that one of the reasons that Hillary did not win in 2016, although she did win 3 million more votes. John Fugelsang is saying if Harris wins, this will be the second time a majority of Americans voted for a woman.